showing up, so I am waiting for them to join. Another one just came in. I should have let Melissa be the host. All right. Stephen, I hope you got that. We are now recording. You guys can ask any questions if you want, but make sure that you don't share any personal information because we're recording to the cloud so that others can listen to it later. I will continue to, I'll try my best to monitor the waiting room and the chat. I'll see how this goes. This is going to be complicated. You guys can see my screen, right? You see the presentation? Just checking again, since it seems like yes. Okay, perfect. So my name is Lily. I am one of the tutors with the Science Center. I've been tutor with the Science Center for forever now, it seems. And Melissa, who is also here with me, she's my supervisor. And she's asked me, it's never good to share things with others, or maybe they think it is, but I don't, because then it gets me into doing presentations. I shared with my colleagues in tutoring that I had done, I'm sorry, I'm admitting more people into the room. I had done I've done a few bodybuilding competitions, and they know that it requires, some special nutrition, and we're in nutrition month. So they reached out and asked if I could share my experience and my take on the nutrition of bodybuilding. So I'm here to share that with you. So again, good night, everyone, and thank you for being here. Just more people coming in. All right. My relationship, I'm just going to start by saying that my relationship with food has never, until I started doing this, has never been ideal. I love to eat. But when I decided to take on the bodybuilding challenge, nutrition actually became a very important part of my life. And it has changed me and my health and the way I see myself, because I don't do this for anyone else, I do it for myself. It has changed all of that in a positive way. It's been one of the better decisions that I have made in my life, because now I have a better relationship and a better understanding of my body and a better relationship with food. So I'm going to share, like I said, I'm going to share with you today some of what I've learned through my journey, specifically as it comes to nutrition. Not going to spend time here talking about workouts or anything like that, because it's Nutrition Month. But before I get started, I want to point out something very important, and I want you all to know that the information that I am going to share, it's mostly going to be general information. And I'm going to give some examples of what might have worked for me. I want to stress this because bodybuilding is not a black and white science. Everyone is different. And therefore, everyone's journey, if you're interested or ever decide that this is something that you want to try, whatever I say here is not necessarily going to apply to you, right? This is just like a baseline almost of what it takes to go through this journey. Everyone is different. Everyone is different in everything, right? For anything in life. But when we talk about bodybuilding, the differences between individuals is going to affect the type of workouts, the amount of workouts, the load of the workouts, and also what nutrition plan you follow and what works for you. So with all of those caveats and disclaimers, let's get started. And you can interrupt me at any point in time. I'll try my best to, again, monitor everything as I go. So bear with me. The first thing, slides are not advancing. Here we go. First thing I want to talk about is what is bodybuilding? I don't like that it's called bodybuilding, because it's a very broad term. It's almost a misnomer. But it's the accepted term, right? It's a broad term used to describe the transformation of your body. More people are coming in. Transformation of your body through exercise and proper nutrition, usually for competitive purposes, right? If you're working out, but you're not going to compete, you don't say you're a bodybuilder. Bodybuilding is usually associated with very big muscles and very little fat, but that is not necessarily true. That is a very odd generalization. There are a series of competitions categories that are going to, and each category is going to vary in terms of the amount of leanness that you require, the amount of muscle that you require. For example, for women, there are like 4, 5, 6 categories that you can compete in. You have bikini, wellness, figure, fitness. Some associations have physique for women, and then bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is actually a category within bodybuilding, which is why I say that the general term is kind of a misnomer. And for men, there's usually 3 categories: physique, classic physique, and bodybuilding. Like I said, all of these have various levels of required muscularity and leanness, as well as posing requirements and other requirements that the judges are looking for. So it depends greatly in what category you're competing, and you need to make that determination ahead of time so that you know how that's going to affect your nutrition and your workouts as you get ready for your competition. Whether you do it as a sport, meaning you actually do it consistently to earn money, or as a hobby, like I do it every now and then whenever I feel like it, it does not matter. It's going to require a lot of time. It's going to require a lot of patience and self-love, your patience with yourself, a lot of determination, a lot of discipline, a lot of exercise, as you might imagine, and proper nutrition. But the most important thing is it's gonna take a heck of a lot of motivation if you really want to do this. Competitive bodybuilding makes you look really good for a tiny bit of time, but it's unsustainable, and I would say almost unhealthy and borderline dangerous in some instances. However, the lessons learned from the process, you can use them on your day-to-day to look good and feel healthy year-round. All right, so let's, why are my slides not advancing? All right. No. What is happening? What is happening? Okay. When people are coming in, bear with me. I apologize. Welcome, Johnny. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, we are all different, right? And as the word individual implies, that's why we're called individuals. And as is the case with everything else, there's not such thing as one size fits all, unless it's a baseball cap and it's probably not a perfect fit. If you've tried a baseball hat that says one size fits all, I have, and they don't fit me well. So there is no bodybuilding plan that is going to perfectly fit 2 different individuals. That's what I'm trying to get at. Each plan has to be carefully crafted for the person that is trying to compete. And it's going to be based on a variety of factors. Both the nutrition and the workout plans are going to be initially, at least, directed or geared based on your body type. What are the various body types out there, and how do you know which one is the most representative of you? Or I should say, which ones are the most representative of you? And I use the term in plural because no one exists within purely one body type. We're constantly in flux, and we fall uniquely on a spectrum somewhere between all 3, really, depending on the day, depending on the time of year, or what it might be. But generally speaking, let's say we would fit on 3 discrete categories. Generally speaking, an endomorph is a stocky individual that has a slow metabolism, and because of that, they gain fat fast and they lose fat slowly. An ectomorph is the other extreme, right? It's the skinny type that have a super fast metabolism and struggles to gain muscle mass. And then the mesomorph is what we all kind of strive to be, is the ideal type. It's the middle of the road. That person has an athletic body type, and they have not a fast, not a slow metabolism, but an efficient metabolism. And these individuals gain mass and lose fat very effectively. So that's what we all want to do, especially if we're trying to compete in bodybuilding. Apologize, people keep coming in and I'm trying to keep up with it. So most people want to be a mesomorph, but few people really are that body type. Now, identifying your body type is going to help establish what diet, what training, and what cardio programs are ideal for you. For example, endomorphs are usually pretty sensitive to carbohydrates. And we're going to talk a lot about carbohydrates in a minute, but some people are sensitive to carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, if you're sensitive to carbohydrates, you hold on to a lot of water because wherever the carbs go, water follows. And so they hold on also to muscle glycogen stores. We're going to talk a little bit more about all of this in a moment. In terms of dieting, these individuals respond well to higher amounts of fat. And usually what they do is they do carb cycling. I don't know if you've heard about that, meaning you have some low carb, high protein meal days, and then you follow it up by 1 day of moderate carbohydrates and lower fat. So you kind of alternate between the two, but you eat less carbs for most days of the week to try to tame down the fact that you are sensitive to carbohydrates. Like you look at them and you gain weight, that kind of thing. All right. So once you determine your body type, and there are tools online that can help you determine what body type you kind of fall into. There's no real strict way of determining. People like trainers that have been doing this for years, they'll look at you and they'll know. And I don't know how they know, but they know. I guess they've seen it enough, and they kind of have a pretty good idea of what body types you fall into. But there's some tools online. Some of them are better than others, more reliable than others. But you can Google body type and try to find out what type you are if you care to know. Once you determine your body types, you need to then focus on the nutrition. Nutrition accounts for more than half, and I am going to venture out and say that it accounts for more than 70% of the transformation process. Bodybuilders really diet, and the word diet is a word that I really despise. Bodybuilders only diet, and I'll define what diet is during the last phase of the preparation process. The rest of the year, we adhere to a clean eating lifestyle, and that does it. Establishing those healthy habits is the hardest thing to achieve, and is the one that takes the longest to get used to. So people often get frustrated. That's why I say you need a lot of patience. You need a lot of motivation and determination to be able to get through this. Why do people get frustrated? Why is it that they give up? Because we're humans, we want to snap our fingers and we want to see changes. We want to see changes immediately. And that's not how it works, right? We can't expect to get fit in a week when we've been loading our bodies with junk for years on end, right? When I started training, and trust me, I felt the same way. When I started training, I spent a full 9 to 10 months adjusting my nutrition until I could get used to my new lifestyle, which I have never, ever let go since, because I don't want to go through that again. And because I feel good now that I have found that. Diets, bodybuilders go through a diet at the very end. And I don't like the use of the word diet. I don't like diets. I don't think they're good. I don't think they're sustainable. I don't think they're anything positive. Diets are restrictive, which is why they're not successful. You might disagree with me, but hear me out. You might go on a keto diet, say, and if you do it right, which is unsustainable if you're doing a clean keto diet, you are going to lose people. Because we like to snap our fingers, you get super excited, right? Because you lose a lot of water weight. You're not eating carbs. So if you're not eating carbs, you're going to lose a bunch of water weight. That is what you lose immediately. People come back and say, I lost 3 pounds in 1 day. And I'm like, that is, first of all, losing 3 pounds in 1 day is not healthy at all. And second, that was water. That's not even the weight you want to lose, right? And then you cannot keep it for more than a few weeks, if that. And you say you lost weight, but you really lost 10 pounds of water. So then when you come out of it, which you're going to come out of it because, again, it's not sustainable. You're going to crave everything that you did not eat, that you deprived yourself of, and you are going to gain all the weight that you lost plus some. And that is not what we want. We don't want to go and we don't want to fall into that cycle. We don't want to, no one needs to diet. If you want to lose weight, you just need to change your lifestyle, and that takes time. So again, diets are restrictive, which is why I don't like the word diet. We don't like, when we're told we can't eat something, when we're told we cannot do something, we want to do it. We want it more, and we eventually give in. And we not only give in, but we usually go all out, like I said. So no one likes to be restricted. And more importantly, all macronutrients. We have 3 macronutrients: proteins, carbs, and fats. All macronutrients are very important. So removing one or more from our meals is not necessarily a good habit. Definitely not a good habit to have long-term. Sorry, someone else just joined. All right. If you have questions, just post them. I will try my best here. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the nutrition. Carbs get a bad reputation. I am sensitive to carbs. I'm not a full endomorph. I'm a endomesomorph, kind of somewhere in the middle there. But I don't look at carbs and gain weight, but if I touch them, even if I don't put them in my mouth, I touch them, I probably will. But I love carbs. Who doesn't? Carbs are great. They are super tasty. They're the best food ever. But they get a bad reputation. And the reason they get a bad reputation is because they make us gain weight. But that's because we don't know how to eat them. We don't know when to eat them. We don't know which kind of carbs to eat either, right? Or maybe we do know, but we don't do it. Carbohydrates are the body's preferred source of energy. I know it is. They're everyone's biggest temptation, Caitlin. I am with you there. I love carbs. I live on bread and water, which is a horrible combination for bodybuilding. So it is. Carbs are the number one source of energy for the body, but an excess intake of simple carbs is going to lead to fat gain, right? But simple carbs are not completely the end. We prefer complex carbs, and I'm going to give you some examples of that. But simple carbs also do have a purpose and a place in bodybuilding. If you take simple carbs, by simple carbs, I mean something like bread. There's no nutritional value really. It's just, it converts to sugar, right? But when you take it post-training, especially if you have been training hard, they have muscle building effects. And I'll touch up on that soon. But we prefer complex carbs because complex carbs digest slower, and therefore they are a preferred energy source to fuel those hard training sessions that you are inevitably going to have to endure if you are going to try to grow your muscles. So here's the thing about carbohydrates. They're converted to glucose as they're digested, right? And why does this matter? Weight training increases muscle sensitivity to insulin. Insulin promotes muscle gain or fat gain. We want it to promote muscle gain and limit the amount of fat gain. Insulin drives carbohydrates from the bloodstream into the muscle and those muscle receptors where it is stored as muscle glycogen or muscle energy. And you need that to be able to grow your muscles. Insulin also drives amino acids into the muscles, and amino acids are the building blocks for protein, which we need to build more muscle, right? So we need these carbs to be able to build muscle. More muscle can be made if you eat carbs. So insulin is important in the role of muscle building. But high amounts of carbohydrates, particularly carbohydrates that have a very high glycemic index, are going to be stored as fat inside the fat cell instead of in the muscle. Why? Because we can only store so much carbohydrate in the muscle, right? And the rest is going to be converted to fat and stored for future use in the fat cell. That's how we store the energy. If we need it, then it comes out of the fat and then we burn it. So the trick here is to have the perfect balance right? Consuming just the right amount of carbohydrates for muscle gain, but not enough so that we don't have to store it. We don't have to store the excess as fat. I hope I'm making sense. Yes, so any carbs really. I am talking about complex carbs. They're the ones that you want to consume more of, because you digest them slower, and because you digest them slower, you have energy for longer periods of time, and you don't crash, so you don't feel hungry again so quickly. Absolutely, sweet potatoes 100% every single time over bread. Yes. No, I haven't. I'm going to get there, Michael. I'm going to get there. So here's a few of the things, but I'll give you more examples later. So the glycemic index, what is that? I mentioned the glycemic index. I told you you don't want to consume too much carbohydrates with a high glycemic index. Unfortunately, in the United States, we do not label our foods. Most foods do not include the glycemic index in the labeling, which is a shame. Some do. In other countries, I know they do. So if you want to know if whatever you're consuming has a high glycemic index, you have to just look it up, just Google it, and it will tell you more or less what the glycemic index is. And then there is the site there on the slide tells you also where you can go and get some information on it. But the glycemic index, I want to flesh it out a little bit because it's an important concept when deciding what carbohydrates you want to eat. It depends on Sean, to your question, it depends on if it's a quick, if it has a high glycemic index or if it's a fast digesting carbohydrate, which simple carbs are, you will use it as fuel immediately. So you want to, and now I'm going to talk about this in a little while again, but you want to consume those simple carbohydrates or the ones that have a high glycemic index right after a workout, which is when you want to fuel your muscles. You want to replenish the energy that you took out of your muscles. After that, you don't want to use it anymore because you're not going to need it. And then what it's going to do is going to spill over, right? If you fill the glass all the way to the brim, it's going to start to spill out. And that spill out is going to go into your fat cells when you don't want to do that. So if you're going to consume a simple carb, you want to do it, and you're encouraged to, if you're training, to consume a simple carb right after you finish training, especially if you're doing a workout like a super, like a very, something like legs, which is working a big muscle group. It's usually a very intense day. Most people hate leg day. I love it. Women like it, men don't, not so much. But the load of leg day is beat by no other day, right? That's the worst day of the week. That's the worst day of the week. So that's when we use the most energy in our muscles. So if you're going to have a bigger portion of a simple carb after a workout, that's the day to do it. Other days, you can still consume a simple carb after a workout, just not in the same amount necessarily because you did not work big muscle group. You don't ever want to skip leg day. You don't want to look like a funnel, right? All right, so back to the glycemic index. The glycemic index is a ranking of no simple carb is healthy, but yes, it is okay because we want to get the energy. What we want to do is get the energy. I should not say that. I should not make that generalization. I'm going to try to think of a simple carb that is healthy, but most of them are not, and it does not matter. I'm not telling you should go and eat a Krispy Kreme donut. I will never say that, but you can eat a slice of bread. You can have some rice or a baked potato. Like they have a high glycemic index, right? They're simple carbs, but you can eat that. There's some nutritional value to it, and it will replenish your energy source in your muscle immediately, which is what you need. Yes, honey is a good one. That's a simple carb, and it is a good one. I actually, whenever I needed to sweeten something or needed a little bit of sugar, I will always just eat a tablespoon of honey with, I don't know, put it in oatmeal or in some cereal that I was eating or whatever. I cannot speak to that, Kyra. I don't know if it's Kyra or Kira, so I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. I don't know. Kira. Okay, got you. Thank you. All right, so the glycemic index is a ranking of carbohydrates based on someone else coming in, based on their effect on the blood sugar levels, right? So generally speaking, anything with a GI of 55 or 56, depending on what source you're using, somewhere around 55, 56 is going to be considered low glycemic index. That is what you want to strive to eat most of the time. Anywhere between 56 to 59 or 55 to 59 is going to be moderate. And anything above 70 is going to be high. And again, there's charts online that you can look and get a general idea of what people, I have a coworker, she's always eating carrots. She tells me she eats healthy. And I told her, you might as well eat a Cheeto, which is what I call a carrot. Carrots have such a, my toddler loves carrots. And you know why? Because they are loaded with sugar. I don't taste the sugar in them. They're loaded with sugar. That's why kids like the carrots. And so she's constantly eating like a rabbit over there next to me. I'm like, are you crunching on carrots again? You say you keep eating healthy. You're not. Eat a carrot. But she brings the bag of carrots from the store and she plops it at her desk and those are her snacks every day. No, sweet peas and carrots are not. It's not that they're bad. I'd rather you eat a carrot than a Cheeto, but it's not the best. You don't want to eat that every day, all day long, like my coworker does. It's just crazy. Very high glycemic index, above 70, not good. Okay, what was I saying? Totally lost my train of thought. It's not that it's unhealthy. That I don't like to. So, Caitlin, it's not that it's unhealthy. Again, I would prefer you eat any vegetable, sweet peas, carrots over a Krispy Kreme donut or a slice of pie or cake, even though slice of pie or a slice of cake is also good every now and then. But it's not something that you want to eat every day. So it's good to know these things. It is still a vegetable, and vegetables are good for you. Carrots are a great source of vitamin A, and you want that, but you don't want to eat it again constantly all day long. Thanks, Catalina or Caitlin. It's Caitlin. Yes, you get confused. Your email always says Catalina, and then it's time. Okay, gotcha. I eat carrots sparingly. I eat them sparingly. I can't tell you, I mean, how often you should eat them. Everyone is different, but sparingly. Keep them in there, eat the rainbow, but change, the sources of colors of the rainbow can be different things. It doesn't always have to be orange carrot. It can be something else. So why do I talk about the glycemic index? High GI carbohydrates, glycemic index is GI. They're quickly digested, they're quickly absorbed, which cause a spike in the blood sugar, right? And followed by a quick drop, which makes us crash. By crash, I mean we feel hungry and with no energy afterwards, which is why eating a donut when you're hungry is not going to do anything other than make you feel even hungrier. And you're going to end up feeling like you need to eat again. Diet Coke and diet soda do the same thing. They trick the body, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, but just so you know, unless you're diabetic, stop drinking diet soda. You're not doing it has fake sugars, and that fake sugar tricks your body to release insulin anyway. So insulin goes out, grabs the sugar in the bloodstream, and you crash. And so what happens when you crash? You want to eat more, and you want to eat more sugar because you need it. Because insulin thought, you just fed me, and you just fed me sugar. It wasn't real sugar, but I thought it was sugar. So I went and grabbed the little bit of sugar you had in your bloodstream, stored it away, and now you have no sugar. So now you're going to feel faint, you're going to feel weak, and you're going to feel hungry. So you're going to go and eat some more. I rather you don't drink any soda, but if you're going to drink soda, and unless you're diabetic, eat the regular one. You're not doing yourself any favor by taking the diet one. Or drinking the diet soda with a double Big Mac or whatever you order with it. They usually don't, Michael. Maybe you're eating too much of them and then you just feel kind of like full and that makes you feel tired, like bloated. So it's also about the amounts that we eat. I don't know, but it should not. It should not. It should fill you up pretty good and hold you for at least noon. That's another one. You need to sleep good. All right, what was I saying? So we want to eat the complex carbohydrates, which usually have a lower glycemic index because they won't give us that spike in sugar. They're slowly digested. So it's like little bits of sugar are getting released at a time, right? It's not all at once really quickly. And when that happens, when we eat the low glycemic index carbs, your blood sugar kind of stabilizes. You get it again in little bits. So it makes you feel fuller for longer. And it makes you feel more energetic. And that's important when we want to train hard. And it's also important when we're trying to minimize fat gain, right? Because if you eat a simple carb, or if you eat a simple carb and you're hungry again, you're going to eat more, which means you are eating more than you need to eat. Then you're going to eventually gain fat because you're eating more than you need to, and that's stored as fat. So we need carbs to build muscle, but too much spills over and gets stored in fat cells. Like I said before, we don't want to feed the fat cells. We want to starve them to an extent. I don't want you to think that I recommend completely, like I said, dissing the high glycemic index carbs, right? When we're training as much as and intensely as we do for bodybuilding shows, we're depleting our glycogen reserves in our muscles, like I mentioned, and that those high glycemic index foods can quickly replenish the storage. But like I mentioned, we want to do it immediately after an intense workout so we can get that energy back into the muscle cells as fast as we can. So timing is key. Knowing which foods have high, moderate, and low GI allows you to plan your diet in a way that's going to maintain consistent energy and insulin levels, which help you be satisfied for longer. Okay. So again, there's some examples there: quinoa, rolled oats, yogurt, nuts, and honey. They all have a low glycemic index. Pineapple, couscous, some examples of intermediate, and baked potato and carrots. It does not matter. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that when I talk about protein, because protein also has some that are fast digestion and slow digestion, but no, it does not matter. It's our own. That depends on the individual. Moreno, Moreno, is that your name or your last name? So that's going to be, we are twins. That's going to be based on your individual, on you. So I cannot tell you. Would not know how to answer the question without asking you a million questions so that we can, see what your metabolism is. I have a friend that is vegan. No, it's not vegan. She's vegetarian. Vegetarian? I always get the confused. Vegan can eat fish and eggs. No. Okay, so she was vegetarian. I don't know if it's possible with it. I mean, you probably can. You probably eat a lot of tofu. It's going to be your protein source. Tofu, beans, rice and beans is a great source of carbohydrates and protein. Rice and beans. I had one trainer, my posing trainer, who was a trainer, not my trainer. She was my posing trainer. But she had clients and she always asked them to eat rice and beans. And I was like, I can't eat rice and beans. I love rice and beans. I grew up on rice and beans, but if I eat rice and beans, I'm going to gain weight really fast. So it depends on the person. There are options. It's probably going to be harder, but there are options. All right, so let's talk about fats and proteins. If you're a pescatarian, you don't have a problem. And fish is essentially what we eat at the very end. No fat, no carb, just fish. So let's talk about fats and proteins. Fats are the most concentrated source of energy. Fats give you 9 calories per gram of fat, compared to carbs and proteins, which give you 4 calories per gram of either protein or carbohydrates. So from a body fat control standpoint, it would make sense not to eat a large amount of fat, right? You don't want to gain fat, don't eat fat. However, there are essential fatty acids, and those are an exception. We need those. The The omega-6 fatty acid and the omega-3 fatty acids are essential for hormonal regulation and for growth in the body, but the body cannot manufacture these essential fatty acids, so we need to consume them in our diets. And where do we get them from? Avocados, nuts, some vegetable oils, and some fish, which is essentially the fats that a bodybuilder eats. It's important to know that diets that contain less than 15%, give or take, of fat lower the testosterone levels, and they actually blunt the fat burning. So you stop burning fat if you don't consume enough fat, but you don't want to consume too much fat either. So this game of bodybuilding is a game of balance and walking the little fine line between what is too much and what is too little. Say what again? You don't want to consume too little fat. It's not good. You don't want to consume, because if you consume too little fat, your testosterone levels lower, and you actually stop burning fat. But if you consume too much fat, then you're just going to gain a lot of fat. So you have to consume the right amount. You have to find that sweet spot for you. Also, I mean, once you get to the very end where you're not consuming too much fat, at least for females, I lost my body fat got so low that I lost my period. And so you stop menstruating. It affects your hormonal levels. You need fat for your hormones to work, right? So exactly, ballerinas too. So if you go too low in the body fat, your hormones get all out of whack. And in males, it happens too. I can just speak for me, right? I'm a female, and I can tell you that happens. And then I had to actually come out of it, and it took me like 3 months to be able to get it again, to get to a body fat percentage that I would get it again. So it messes up with a lot of things. It's what I'm saying. It's like a kind of borderline crazy and almost unhealthy towards the very end. All right. So again, fat. For the one, I think it was 10%. No, it wasn't 10, 12%. And for the other one, it was like 16 or 18. And I think I put a picture in there. Yeah, I think it was 12, the lowest I got. That's when I lost my period. And the other one at 18, I still had it. It wasn't as bad. I didn't want to do that again. You learn. That was my first competition. You learn, you adjust, you do better. What was I saying? So again, as with carbs, fats in moderation, we need them, but we're trying to lose fat, so we don't want to be consuming them in excess, and we don't want to be consuming all sorts of fats, right? We don't want to be eating bacon every day like people in dirty keto. They say they're doing keto, that's dirty keto. True keto, I don't think you are allowed to eat bacon, but we don't want to eat bacon every day. That's just going to give you other problems. So you're going to clog your arteries or something. But you're definitely going to gain fat. All right, so proteins are comprised away from fats. Proteins are made up of amino acids, right? Amino acids are the building blocks of life, and so we need them for a lot of processes in the body. They're used in almost every reaction inside the body. Now, I mentioned earlier, like carbohydrates, proteins have different absorption rates. So some proteins are fast-acting proteins. An example, and it's the only one I can think of for whatever strange reason, an example of and it's probably the fastest acting protein is whey. Whey protein. So you see bodybuilders drinking whey. It's an ideal source of amino acids after training or first thing in the morning when you want to, get that boost that you need to do your workout. Depends on when you're doing your workout, right? And then there's different, it does not work for some people. They have to eat or drink plant protein, but plant protein is a lot slower digesting, so it doesn't have the same effect. Whey protein isolate is a little bit cleaner, so it might not make you sick. That's what I was drinking. That's what I usually drank. And it made me feel a little bit better. It's also a little bit, like I said, it's also a little bit cleaner than the regular way. More expensive as well. My daughter is having a blast over there. Sorry for the unnecessary background noise. What was I saying? Okay, wait. So there's also slower acting proteins. Casein. Well, thank you. Thank you, Kira. Hope she doesn't get too loud. Slower acting proteins, casein. I used to drink casein. I used to drink whey in the morning or whey pre-workout, and casein, which is another powder. But it's slow digesting right before bed. It's like super thick. It's almost like chocolate milk, like the tasty chocolate milk. And that would just keep you full the entire night. Why is that important? You say, well, I don't drink whey at night and I feel full. That's fine. That's because you eat a good meal for dinner. When you're bodybuilding and you get to a certain point in your training, you're not necessarily replenishing as much as you would like to. And so I longed for that glass of chocolate milk because it would just coat my stomach and I would just sleep as if I had eaten a buffet. It is a treat. That's exactly how it felt. So we usually eat or drink that later at night, but only when you're training. People that are not doing bodybuilding don't need to be consuming casein or excessive amounts of whey or anything like that because it's not needed. And just like carbs, if you eat too much protein, it also gets stored as fat. We don't want to be gaining fat. So again, there's that balance, that little line that we want to walk on, right? During the day, you want to eat mixed protein sources or medium digesting, for slow digesting, fast digesting, I guess I'll call it medium digesting proteins like eggs, soy, chicken. Those are the best ones to consume throughout the day. How much protein do you need for muscle building? That varies. I don't know what you mean, Michael. What about doing functional fitness? Not sure what you're referring to, but if you clarify, I'll try to answer. I'm just going to keep going while you type. 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight should be a good starting point for how much protein you should be consuming. Good thing about protein has a high thermic effect. What does that mean? It means that we burn more calories digesting protein than we do digesting other macronutrients. So we can get away with consuming more, but again, an excess amount of protein or anything else will be stored as fat. So the trick, again, is to use the right amount of protein at the right times and breaking it up in multiple meals throughout the course of the day. I was eating 5 meals a day, sometimes 6. And then in each meal I included, sometimes a particular meal was just a chicken breast or 3 ounces of chicken breast. And that was my meal. So you want to consume protein in every single of those meals. And post-training, you want to consume about 20 to 50 grams of protein, depending on your body weight. And again, you just want to use lean sources of protein, red meat, but it has to be the right red meat, the lean kind of red meat. So it's a little bit more expensive. Some people don't tolerate red meat very well. Fish, eggs, cottage cheese, chicken, turkey, protein supplements. Those are the kind of things that bodybuilders would eat. What is your ideal or current weight? Seems to be the great debate. Wait, am I? I'm not trying for, but I'm trying to get stronger. Casein protein. Yes. Yes, you can do that. If that's what you meant, Michael. Yes. If you're trying to get stronger and build muscle and you are working out, then yes, you're breaking, to build muscle, you have to break it down. So you have to provide it enough protein to be able to build more, right? You create micro tears in your muscles when you're making them grow, when you're putting a lot of load onto them. And so if you are doing that, not necessarily for bodybuilding, you are working out and you might need more protein. Yes. Is it your ideal or current weight? Seems to be. What do you mean? might have lost the conversation. If you guys have a question, just post it again. I don't know what happened. That's on average what is needed, yes. All right, I don't even know what time it is. I'm probably, wow, time has flown. All right, because you guys are interested. I like it. I like it. You guys are asking questions. I love it. That is what you should consume for your current body weight, and that adjusts, and then you adjust that as you start losing weight. You always base it on your current body weight, and then you start tapering it as you start to go down or up, depends. Okay, so now that we have a general idea of the basics, I'm gonna try to fly through this. The first thing to do when preparing for a bodybuilding competition is to establish our baseline nutrition. What does this mean? You need to get your body used to a consistent amount of calories so that it stabilizes itself, and so that you can use that as a reference point throughout your training. During that phase, we want to replace all the empty calories, no more Krispy Kreme donuts, with wholesome foods. We want to strive to eat 5 to 6 times a day and include a lean protein source in every meal. Whoa, what happened? You also want to try to record your meals, which is, I hated it. It's time consuming, but it helps a lot if you need to make modifications. And establishing this baseline diet is going to help you tailor your diet for the bodybuilding competition. This is the period that takes the longest. It can take as little as 2 weeks to 4 weeks to get you shed some fat, or it can take you months, as it was the case for me, upwards of 9 to 10 months, because I was not used to it and I had to undo a lot of the damage that I had done throughout the years. Talk about patience. I had to wait an entire year and a half before I could after I started training until I could compete, because it took forever for me to undo the damage that I had done. Now that I know how to fuel my body, if I were to get ready for if I were to decide to compete, which I am in 2025, I know that a few weeks of baseline nutrition should get me to where I need to be, because I have learned what works for me and I try to keep it throughout the year. I just like to eat healthy because it makes me feel good. You don't know how good you feel or how good you will feel until you start to take out a lot of the crap that we eat. You might be sensitive, you might be bloated, and you don't even know it because that's your normal. So what do we want to nourish ourselves with? I already kind of gave you some, but here's a list of some of the preferred proteins, some of the preferred fats, and I'm just going to mention it and keep going for the sake of time. But here are also some of the carbohydrates, some of the preferred carbohydrates. Again, these are just examples, and the amount and type of macronutrient we eat daily will depend on your genetics and your body type, and perhaps on what type of, on what category you want to compete in. So it depends on your goal. If you're doing bodybuilding, it depends on your goal. If you're trying to just, like Michael is saying, just gain muscle or get healthy or gain strength. It just depends. And there's not one size fits all. But these are some of the most common foods that bodybuilders eat. All right. So once you're able to establish your baseline, so you are not gaining or losing weight, you've been steady there for a few weeks. You have your proper nutrition, you have the proper energy levels, then because that's something that changes, right? For the first 2 weeks when I started removing things from my diet to have a wholesome diet, I had headaches. I thought I was going to die. I felt so weak. But my trainer kept saying, if you get through the first week, you are going to feel amazing. You need to push through that first week. And boy, he was right. The first week I thought I was going to die. I'm not going to lie. But after that, I felt fantastic. And I don't ever want to go back. So once you get there, because I was removing a lot of things from my diet. I wasn't eating too much. I wasn't eating too little. I was just removing crap from my diet and substituting it with things that actually were nutritious. But, if you're told you can't eat sugar, I was told I cannot drink coffee with milk. I needed to remove milk from my diet. So That's true, Michael. That is true. Once you establish what your baseline is, again, no weight gain, no weight loss, proper energy levels, you're eating wholesome foods that are actually giving you nutrients. We go through the bulking phase. The bulking phase is called bulking because we're bulking, because we're gaining muscle mass, right? And so during this phase, we want to increase our calorie intake by 1,000 to 2,000 calories, depending on our goals and on our gender, right? That might seem like a lot. It's not really when you're burning so much calories. We want to gain muscle. And so we will inevitably gain weight because muscle is heavy. But if we do it properly, we are going to gain lean muscle. So just muscle, no fat. And despite our increased weight, our clothes will fit better. They always told me, do not weigh yourself. My trainer, that was the number one rule. We're going to start this. You're not going to weigh yourself. We're going to measure you. You're not going to get weight. You're not going to you're going to step on the scale. Maybe once every 2 months, you can step on the scale if you want, but you're not going to step on the scale because you are going to get frustrated. And he made the measuring tape my best friend. And that's how I knew it was working. It was not on the scale. I actually gained weight, but it was the right type of weight. So your clothes are going to fit better, and you also can use that as a measure. Instead of the scale, put your clothes on. They start feeling looser. They start fitting better. You start to actually look better in your clothes. So again, the scale is not necessarily telling us anything interesting. It's just lying to us and making us frustrated because we don't understand what's happening. Remember, muscle is heavier than fat. So if you're gaining muscle, you're supposed to gain weight. So I was going to give you an example, but I don't really want to do math right now. But it's what is there for a pound of muscle is around 100 grams of protein. So to build 1 pound of muscle, we need roughly 20,000 calories, if I'm doing the math correctly, which means that if we eat about 1,400 calories above your baseline diet for approximately 6 months, you will gain 10 pounds of muscle, which is what most bodybuilders strive to gain throughout the course of the year. And I say 6 months because most bodybuilders compete once a year and then take a break. And I'm talking about a natural bodybuilder. I never put any substance in my body. I never will. A lot of bodybuilders put steroids and compete in associations that allow that. My association drug tests you. You cannot use anything or you will be disqualified immediately. So everything I am telling you is for a natural bodybuilder. Nothing else. When you are using chemicals, you can gain muscle faster. You can lose fat faster. You can also die faster or go to prison faster. I don't know. So during bulking phase, when you're trying to gain muscle, you don't necessarily need to adhere to a very strict diet for the duration of the bulking phase. Ideally, you want to limit the junk food you consume, right? I am not, Michael, no. Look at me, no. But you want to consume less junk, of course. You want to try to minimize the junk. So how do you reach your caloric needs? Well, you're just going to eat more of the same nutritious foods that you were eating. So you're going to eat a higher amount of the same nutritious foods so that you can get to that increased 1,000 calories or so. Every now and then you can indulge in the occasional sweet or not so nutritionally dense meal. In fact, I did that. It helped me reset my metabolism, and most athletes will agree that to have a cheat meal once a week helps. It helps curb that anxiety and that craving, but it also helps reset. And it's not going to hurt because it's just a cheat meal, not a cheat day, a cheat meal, 1 day a week. That's it. You can eat whatever you want. It's not going to do much damage because, again, you're trying to gain muscle and the rest of the time you are eating healthy. So it's just that one time just to get it out of your system and it's going to be fine. No. So then don't do it. No problem. Thank you for coming. I'm going to try to breeze through this in a second. We have a few more slides left and that's it. The cutting phase is the hard phase. It's because our bodies love to store energy, but they don't like to release it, right? It's not losing fat is not easily achieved, and a lot of bodybuilders rely on drugs to achieve the results that they want. So how do we do it the natural way? We control insulin, which I explained earlier, and we make sure that our partitioning is on point. Our partitioning or P ratio should be high. A high P ratio means that we're losing fat and gaining muscle because we're eating the right things. However, the P ratio is also in part controlled by genetics and your metabolism and your hormones. So we need to make sure that our workouts and diets are in correct order and harmony to be able to naturally manipulate our hormonal levels, right? Not as effective as taking steroids and whatever some people put in their bodies, but a lot better in the long run. The final stage of contest preparation is peaking. Is the peaking phase. It's the most rewarding stage because it's when you get to see the fruits of your labor, right? It's right before you get on stage is the final results of your hard work. So what happens during the few days before the contest, it depends on your approach. I've personally looked like both guys on the picture, not exactly like that, but generally speaking, I'm going to show you a picture of myself in the next slide for a hot second. Because I debated if I should put it up or not, but just so you see that you don't have to be completely ripped. I competed in the figure category, and I'm not a bodybuilder, right? So again, what happens during the first few days, during the few days prior to the competition depends on your approach. In my first competition, I limited my salt content, my water content, took a few diuretics and carb loaded. And then my second time, you live and learn with a different coach. I simply made minimal changes to my already established nutritional routine. And that approach helped me feel better. And I think I looked better. And the judges thought that I looked better too because I placed higher. So I think it went well all around. So like everything else, the approach can vary, but based on my experience, you must control some variables in the final week. You need to control the carbs, the sodium, and the water, all of which are related, right? Because wherever carbs go, water follows, and wherever water goes, sodium follows or salt follows. So you need to control all three of those, but not to some dramatic extent. And okay, so here, just like this guy right here, right? You see the difference between his body, and one of them, he looks a lot more dry than the other. Just so the images here, I'm going to put me up for a second. On the images on the left, I did not drink water at all for like the entire day prior to the competition. I would just wet my lips. I thought I was going to die. And the second one, I was a lot more hydrated. And I placed a lot higher than the first one. This is almost the last slide. A lot of people think that after the show, the training is over, but that is actually far from the truth. What happens after the show is important and a lot of times neglected. What happens when we stop our nutrition and return to our old habits after the show? Well, there's a huge rebound in water because of the increased carb consumption, right? Like I said, water will follow glycogen or carbs in a 3-to-1 ratio, so it's huge. And then you probably have poor tolerance to carbohydrates because you've been monitoring throughout a long period of time. So it was going to cause all that glycogen to be shuttled right into the fat cells as opposed to the muscle cells. And you're going to suffer huge mood swings and suffer from lethargy. You're going to get lethargic. And so at the end of the week, you're just going to be fat, depressed, and 20 pounds over contest weight, which is horrible. So what do I recommend? Enjoy a set period of unrestricted eating, right? You deserve it. You worked hard, you deserve it. So preferably those first 24 hours after the show, go celebrate your hard work, indulge in pizza, ice cream, and pancakes. Those were my favorites. And after that, clean the crap out of you, or you're going to end up wearing a tent to work because nothing in your wardrobe fits, all right? Once you've satisfied all your cravings, then you start adding slowly a meal per day. Keep the meal clean, eat lean meats, veggies, the normal contest food. Then you add the condiments back. You can have ketchup for the first time in, 9 months. You can have maybe ice, or I'm sorry, milk in your coffee. You can have hot chocolate at night. And for the next 3 weeks, maybe increase the number of calories by, 100 calories. And then for another week, increase another 100 calories. You have to taper it up or down, I guess, to back to your baseline. It's the best way to transition into the off season again. And then you can, of course, decide if you're crazy enough to do it all over again. I'm gonna take a deep breath. All right, that is it. Here are some references for you guys to, some not references, but some resources if you're interested in learning more about the things that I talked about. You can always send me a message, and here's the actual references. And that's it. And I'm sorry we went over. Oh, just 1 minute. Okay. I know I breezed through those slides at the end, but like I mentioned earlier, I'm a tutor at the Science Center. So if you have any questions, you should swing by. We can talk. Or if you have any questions about any of your classes, swing by and we can help you. All right, guys. Thank you for coming, and I hope you have a wonderful night. Glad to hear that, Shannon. All right, guys. Good night. I'm going to stop the recording now.